Hello and welcome to Push Your Glasses Up. I'm Mikey.
And I'm Reena, and hi.
Hello.
We're doing this. Yay! It's only taken a
Yes.
minute.
Yeah, the world gets in the way. But we're going to since we have been off for a while, we're going to kind of just boost everything in this episode. So we're going to do the whole second 2/3 of Loki in this episode, and we're going to do Black Widow in this episode. But let us start with Loki. And let's give in a whole kind of overlook on it. What did you think of Loki in the end as a whole?
I mean, I loved it. I feel like I would have liked it better if I binged it because I just had trouble waiting for each episode as the mystery continued to unravel because I have no patience. I thought out of all of the Marvel series that have come out this year, surprisingly, I think it was my favorite, even though I was so tied to WandaVision. But I thought it was amazing, especially towards the end, and just getting a glimpse of what's coming is just welcome to phase 4, which we'll get into all of that. I love Tom Hiddleston. I thought it was the casting was excellent. I liked all the characters. I felt like every character had purpose. There's not a lot of extraneous characters all over the place. Yeah, I could go on and on and on, but what did you think?
We will. I absolutely adored it. It is one of my favorite things in the MCU all around. I have a little bit of a disagreement with you on how it released. I think it works perfectly for this episodic kind of every week an episode release schedule because it just lets you sit in it. It lets you stew a little bit and wonder what's going to happen.
Oh no, I don't like that.
No, I know. But that's why I like it so much, because it allows you to as much as we don't dive too much into fan theory stuff, it allows your thought process to start, kick into gear a little bit. And there were a couple things that I wish happened that didn't happen, but it was more of reward moments rather than actual issues going on. A gratuitous thing that everybody wanted in this show didn't happen.
What was the thing that everybody wanted?
Mobius riding a jet ski.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody wanted it.
Yeah.
And it would have been easy, an easy little reward.
There could have been, I don't know, a lake in the void. He could have rolled up on a jet ski.
Right, instead of the pizza wagon. He could have just had a jet ski, and that would have worked. So, little gripes like that, but overall, I absolutely adored what we got out of this. And I think that the glimpses of really great performances that we see Tom Hiddleston give throughout the MCU, he's good in the first Thor movie with one tremendous moment, and it's when he learns about his, actual parentage. In the Dark World, he's good, but the moment with his mother is tremendous. And it's kind of like that through all of his appearances. So to have this stretched out, letting us sit with the character and letting us learn, even though it's not the one that we knew originally, it's still good to be able to just sit with this character for such an extended period of time. And I think binging through it would have felt too condensed to me. So it wouldn't have felt like we were able to sit through the growth that this version of the character goes through. But that's why we're all different. So, but yeah, I find it weird that like there were moments where people were like, man, what a slow episode that was, when it was Sylvie and Loki having to try to get off of that one planet just because it was all character work.
Mm-hmm. Most of the show was. There was a heavy dialogue. Not like other than like maybe like the last scene when they're trying to get to the spaceship before like the planet gets crushed by the dissolving moon or whatever the hell was happening. That was like one of the only real actiony scenes. There's like they're kind of sparse out. It's mostly talking and dialogue and why are we the way that we are. When I say we are, I mean the Lokis.
Yeah. The plot of this show, I think people expected to be, even though we have already seen that the other two shows were more character driven than plot driven necessarily. This show, like the plot is the character. Mm-hmm. So point A to point B is a character learning to love themselves.
Literally and figuratively.
Right. And that's like, we went over it with WandaVision that was an accessible way to talk about grief. We went on with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that's an accessible way to talk about race. And this is an accessible way to talk about how one sees themselves.
How one unburdens themselves from glorious purpose.
And giving yourself a break. It's an accessible way to talk about giving yourself a break.
Even if you're a narcissist.
Yeah. Not everybody is the best person. But
although now thinking about it, it was kind of perfect timing for that level of, character development, because he was just coming off that massive loss to the Avengers in the first Avengers film. That's the Loki that takes the Tesseract.
For this one, yeah.
For this one. So he was like in the right headspace. But here's the thing. Now we're talking about like versions of Loki. We haven't really talked much about Sylvie yet. But is that the Loki that we see in Ragnarok? Because he enchants Valkyrie and like unlocks her memories. And he states in this that he can't do that.
Well, the one that we see in Ragnarok is the one that dies in Endgame. That literally, like, they're on the ship at the end of Ragnarok, and then he, like, it might as well be a flash cut, because the post-credit scene in Ragnarok is Thanos' ship, like, encompassing their ship. So he is the one in Ragnarok is the one we knew the whole time that then gets snuffed out.
Wait, no, but so that would be the same one from this one.
No.
I don't think you're following what I'm saying.
This is like, it's all in theory the same one, but it's one that comes off of before it gets to that point. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's a yes and no answer because like this version goes through different things. Mm-hmm. So it's the same one, but because of the branching off that it does, it is a different one.
Yeah, because where the branching is starting to happen is like before everything else that we know, because the Loki we meet is...
Well...
But then it's time, so now it doesn't matter.
Well, no, now that's what I'm saying, is you're getting into a linear idea of time, as opposed to in the TVA there's no time at all at the same time.
Dude,
so it's
time shit just fucks with my brain. Like, it just hurts.
Yeah. It can do that, especially
Olive agrees. And I have an interesting relationship with time myself, so
especially
I can't estimate
when we're more used to ideas of time travel in movies that are like Back to the Future, which are like everything is just kind of set in motion. But this has it's the same concept as Back to the Future where Doc Brown draws a straight line and then he talks about the branches that come off of his timeline. So, but yeah, it's convoluted, especially when we're talking about like time and dimensions are different things, but now they're kind of coalescing in Marvel, even though Marvel has gone out of the way to differentiate them before, and it's
because essentially the multiverse, each one is a dimension, right? Because dimensions can run parallel, but they can have different frames of time.
Yes, and now they're kind of combining them, which goes against everything that they've always set up, but whatever, it's fine. Yeah, I really, really appreciate the character stuff in, like, it was easy to adore characters in this show. And find that quickly. Like, Richard E. Grant's classic Loki is an instant favorite character. Like, I love that character immediately. And I, like, through the span of, sure, he's technically in 2 episodes, but through the span of 1 episode where he's, you know, more than just a little stinger at the end, he has an entire arc of, like, kind of being classic selfish Loki to the big heroic moment that is redeeming. And in most shows that wouldn't, like, it'd be endearing, but it wouldn't be long lasting. And I think that version of that character is actually going to be like a long lasting, impactful character in the MCU. It helps that it's Richard E. Grant.
Along with Croaky.
Right. Which it's a weird way to say that.
But like, how would
because
you say?
Because it sounds like croak, which is something a frog does. Which
I know, but if you
Thor
spell it out,
I know.
Calling it Crocky doesn't work either.
I think it sounds a little better, actually, just
Crocky?
for the sake of, just because it very specifically points out that it is a gator or a crocodile.
But I was gonna say, it looks more like an alligator to me.
It does. It's a little more rounded in the nose.
Yeah. I've watched enough Animal Planet to be able to tell you the difference between a crocodile and an alligator.
And I have been to Gator World in Florida, so we're professionals.
For the record, that might be an Olive cosplay in the future. Good.
But yeah, I the whole thing with like that whole episode is just something special because like the number of Easter eggs in it, that like the amount of stuff going on with the characters is fantastic. But we should probably go back to Sylvie a bit since she is the other of the 2 main characters. I do wish that we got a little more answered for her. Granted, we do know that there's a season 2 coming, but like all of the teasing of her Nexus event, all they did was show that she was kidnapped. And they didn't say why. And that's sort of other than saying like it's a female Loki, which I don't think is really enough to quantify like that being the reason. So I think that's going to need to be explored more.
Well, I was also thinking about this because they pluck people from the timelines at the variants from different points, right? So she was taken as a child, like other Loki was taken much later in life. And you know, it's at the threat of a Nexus event, but like, what if their presence didn't actually cause that? What if that was an excuse to prune the timeline from like the TVA? Yeah, because the whole, I don't remember yours seemed a little sus to me.
I think that's just a power move. I think that was just her being like, you're nothing to me.
It was either that or it was a lie. Like, oh, I don't even remember
Yeah.
what yours was going to be. But she just kept jumping around to Nexus events. But, like, what if those were always going to happen? That
But
she didn't cause them.
I think what we learned with Ravonna is that she doesn't actually know a lot of the shit. So she's just in a place where she's just holding the power hand. Like, she's just in a place where she's just going to, like, put people down that are beneath her. So for me, the way that played was literally just her going, you mean fucking nothing to me. That's it. So, like,
but still, to the point, you know, they never showed hers, which would have been, like, we saw Pompeii, we saw what happened on that planet, we saw the severe hurricane that happened when they were in the department store. But, like, what if her presence, what if the Lokis, like, didn't actually cause these Nexus events? What if it was just an excuse?
Yeah, I mean, that could be the case. I do think, because they did explain, like, that Kid Loki killed Thor, and that was their Nexus event. So I think there is still, like, it's possible, but there is still a tie to, like, saying that it is a thing that it's actually happening. But it could go either way. And
there's a lot of lies and deceit and things.
We won't know for at least a year and a half.
Yeah.
And whenever, because there hasn't been a season 2 of any other show announced yet, so we have no idea how long it's going to take for that to actually happen, which is a bummer. But it was pretty fascinating to watch that. Like, I felt the kiss was a little unnecessary.
Because you were he's making out with himself, basically.
No, that didn't bug me. It's just the fact that it was like the messaging that it put through was already clear to me. So, like, it felt a little heavy-handed more than anything. Whereas, like, the messaging was that, like, they're learning to love each other learning to love themselves by loving each other. And I felt like a kiss was just like, hey, look, this is a bottle. Like, it was like that obvious to me. So, especially after it's already, the whole cycle had gone through, it didn't feel that rewarding to me. It just felt a little obvious, I guess. I'll keep saying obvious because I have no other word to put to it. But yeah,
redundant.
Yeah, well, not even
unnecessary.
Unnecessary and obvious. I think obvious is the one that fits the most. I think it's the one that fits the most because it's still doing the purpose of what it's supposed to do. But it's, I just liked the subtler tone explanation as opposed to the in-your-face version. But yeah.
If this was like a BBC show, it wouldn't have happened.
Right. Yeah.
If this was like I'm thinking about like the David Tennant run of Doctor Who, and when there were two 10th Doctors and that whole thing, there would not have been a kiss. It would have just been like he would have been pushed through the portal at the very last second or something like that.
Right. It would have been them saying the rose and then him fading away.
Yep.
Like it would have been that. Like and it probably would have hit harder too.
Oh my god, that scene crushed me. Like it crushed my soul. I felt so bad.
And that's why you had to move on quickly to the next Doctor, and I needed to take some time to actually like the next Doctor.
It took me a little bit to warm up to Matt Smith, but like, okay, let's go back to the original variant. Well, I guess Doctor Who is the Doctor's kind of the original variant, but sort of.
Kind of. More of a mutation, I would say.
My only complaint about Sylvie is that I felt like she was a little more, not one note, but maybe like two notes, especially like towards the end. Like she just was like, I came to do a job. I'm going to do the thing. And I felt like her character had grown so far. It just seemed like it was all the way back to like beginning Sylvie.
I think I get what you're saying. I think that that's a little bit of my own worst enemy, though, because she's dedicated her whole life to that. So when it came down to the moment, she didn't have the instinct to do what she had currently been learning to do, and just fell into the old habit because, there's stuff that I do, you do, whatever, where we revert and just don't, even though we know better, we don't do better. So for me, it played a little bit differently, but I do think I totally see where you're coming from on that. So, yeah.
Could she have enchanted him? Could she have gained? But I feel like there's a lot more than she's like, well, I'm just gonna murder you, and then we're gonna move on. I'm just gonna destroy everything.
I think in that moment she couldn't see the forest for the trees. I think that she saw her chance to do the thing that she'd been seeking after her entire life and just couldn't see the bigger picture, where Loki started to see the bigger picture, and that was his changing. That ultimately him getting the cosmic cube may not be his Nexus event. Maybe his Nexus event is actually getting to a place where he sees clearer and makes a trajectory for himself. That's the thing with the show is there's a lot that's hinted at but not defined necessarily. And because they said season 2 is coming, it's oh.
Well, I feel like they're gonna have
there's
to.
There's answers somewhere. They have to be there for some of these things. They can't leave them all open-ended.
Oh, for real. Or even just the introduction of Kang is just... I'm not really, super familiar with
keep in mind, this isn't actually Kang.
But, we know that's coming. And I went back
This is a different... It's a different person, technically, than... it's a very strange thing.
Wait, how is it
every version of this character has a different name.
But that's what's coming. Now
it's what we're getting to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kang, he's saying of all of his different versions are coming, and one of them is Kang. But he himself technically is not Kang.
But even to understand that backstory and that lineage and all the versions and things, we're gonna need a season 2.
He's also he's the big bad he's the Thanos.
He is, and he's worse than Thanos.
Yeah, but I just mean in general, for on the outside, this is the next 10 years of the MCU. He is gonna be in the background or the foreground in movies, in the TV shows, in everything.
But once I started looking it up, his whatever version has the undying love for Judge Renslayer, and when she's a princess and her versions, and we already know there's more than one of her because they went back to the school with the pens.
Yeah, I was right about that pen
You were right about the pen.
Something, not totally what I was saying, but it meant something in the long run.
Yep. So, there's there was that, but we understand how all of his versions and how scary he is when someone can literally control time across multiple universes. They can do whatever they want. And we kind of got a glimpse of that in the beginning when they opened up the drawer of Infinity Stones at the TVA, and they don't mean anything. And we spent 11 years being like, oh my God, don't let this guy get all of them. And then they're just they keep them I keep crystals. They're oh, you know what this one's for? It's for healing. This is going to be insane.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I don't even know where to start if we were going to talk about that character. That would have to be a separate episode.
With this whole thing, Loki was supposed to be the first show.
Oh, okay.
It was supposed to come before WandaVision. and obviously before Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it got pushed out. And I don't think it was because of COVID. I think it was that they just realized, like, it might be better if we put this after, like, tease multiverse stuff with WandaVision, and then, like, go whole ham with it with Loki, because it's... while I think the majority of people are open to whatever weird shit Marvel can do now, I think having a year and a half away from this entire franchise to then jump into the stuff that is proposed with Loki would be a bit of an ask for some of the audience. So with WandaVision, it allowed us to kind of... I mean, it's not really, like, explored all that much, but, like, the tease at the end of the final episode of that, where there's two of her, we're getting to that multiverse stuff with just kind of dipping the toes into it.
Oh, she's gonna go find her kids. They exist somewhere.
Yeah. But we didn't, like, explore it. And so, like, once we get... Now it's a question of, like, what is Multiverse of Madness going to be? Because at this point, I think we came to the conclusion when we talked about WandaVision that it was probably going to be her going after her kids and Doctor Strange needing to either interrupt that process or go rescue her because she's stuck there, or help her find her way out or whatever. And now I'm second guessing that because it could be literally anything.
It could. But at that point, you know, during all this, she's studying chaos magic, and we already know she's one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel universe. So, I mean, they might need that power if they're going up against someone like Kang.
Yeah. And that's that's the other thing is towards the end of this final episode of Loki is in a different timeline. He gets pushed. He's not pushed into where he was before. He's pushed into a different timeline where nobody knows who he is.
Which I'm guessing was on purpose, considering that she used that the little communicator that He Who Remains was his name in this particular instance. But I can't imagine that he didn't just be like, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that this version is supposed to be Nathaniel Richards. Because he says he was a scientist in the 3000s or whatever, and that lines up with that plot point. But yeah, they gave him, it's He Who Remains is a character from the comics that is not this character. So they're kind of same thing with Sylvie, where they're kind of like blending
where she's like
stuff
Enchantress
together.
and Loki like all at once. Well, yeah,
and I think for the ease of not confusing people, they'll probably, in the long run, she will be Enchantress, just for the sake of keeping things, because it's gonna get confusing anyway. So
it's gonna get so confusing. But maybe the whole tie-in with Scarlet Witch is that she can create realities and control realities, and as things may unravel, she might be one to kind of help hold it together or tear it apart. I don't know. Her mental state was not great when we left her. So
it was better than it was earlier in the season, though. So there's at least that. She's seeing a little clearer than she was for the first many episodes.
Do you think we're going to get like two tracks moving forward that will eventually merge, kind of like we did in the first instance, the first few phases, where there's like the Earth track and then the space track, and then they kind of merged where we have like this high level like multiverse many reality versus like the more grounded reality with like the Falcon and Winter Soldier and like the Cap stuff.
Yeah, I think we'll still see that play out that way, where, you know, it's you can't have Captain America just go do space stuff. Like, he can do space stuff, but like it makes more sense for him to be down here. But at the same time, I think that we're going to see a more convoluted thing come from this, which is this is where Secret War happens.
Oh, yeah.
I think what we're leading to with this is, instead of leading to Infinity War, we're leading to Secret War. And then that's where we get multiple versions of multiple characters. And I mean, we're getting that possibly, you know, with Spider-Man and stuff.
Yeah.
But I just mean in terms of, and this, I still think this analogy is hilarious and terrible at the same time. But when they talked about Secret War, like the most recent comic Secret War, they said it was like two pizzas coming together. And some of the toppings, if you do that, are going to have to fall off, and some of them will merge together onto the new pizza. And I think that that's what will end up happening with this, where we will see different versions of characters, whether it be that's how we get Miles down the road, or, you know, what have you. Like, it's going to be characters from the two different versions of the MCU that come together with Secret War. I think that's probably where this ends up going, because it would be an easy way to retire certain characters. Like, that could be their farewell, but you have them immediately replaced with like the new version. You obviously don't do that with all of them.
Fantastic Four, the easier way to sort of work that in.
Yeah, I still
like
hope
if you're thinking that this is a culmination, this is down the road, we probably will already have the movie and everything as well.
We will already have them. But also, on top of that, like, if they do anything with the comic storyline, the Richards family is very, very involved with that. So, including the fact that, like, Nathaniel Richards is potentially a descendant of the Richards family. So there's a lot of, like, potential knots to tie with this. But I do think, like, that's probably the direction it ends up going. It's just going to take a long time to get there, because it took 10 years for us to even find the first culmination of stuff. So, yeah. But I think we can probably move on to topic 2 from there. So Black Widow
finally came out. It's real.
Took a very long time. The first trailer dropped the day that I was flying to Florida in 2019.
That seems like a lifetime ago.
December 3rd, 2019 is when the first trailer dropped.
But, like, and then how long have they been talking about this, though?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you go about that. In theory, it's been talked about the entire time that the MCU has been going on. But this specific movie, I think it was filmed a year and a half before it came out. Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
But I really loved this movie.
I liked it. I liked it a whole lot.
I expected to enjoy it, but I loved this movie. And that's the thing, is we talk about how long have they been talking about doing this movie. It took too long to get a Black Widow movie. But the flip side of that is, if we got a Black Widow movie between 6 to 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been this movie. And as good as it could have been, who knows what that could have been. Whereas this felt like a greatest hits in a way that was earned. It's like, there's references to, like, her whole career through the MCU, but, like, it felt like they were earned moments to spend in reverence, as opposed to just being like, remember that thing, remember that thing, remember that thing. Like,
it was really a
the
celebration
callbacks
of the
meant
character.
something. Exactly, yeah. And similarly to Loki, like, the plot of this one, personally, I don't think means much. I think it's the characters that mean a lot more to this, as opposed to, like, a Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Like, the plot means something. more so than even the characters do. But like in this movie, I think it's all about learning more about this character and again being able to like sit with this character after we have spent a lot of time with them but haven't explored them. We've explored their exploits but not them,
and we kind of don't know a lot about Natasha through the MCU because, you know, maybe a little bit in like Age of Ultron, but other than that, she's always evolving and always changing and always kind of a counterpart to other people, like in the Winter Soldier when she says like, I can be whoever you want me to be.
Yeah.
You know, so it was nice that like it was finally about her and where she came from and what is important to her and what she was trying to do overall.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you know what I mean? Like, otherwise we kind of don't, like, really delve into what is important to her.
Yeah. And it's like... And it starts right away. Like, you see... I was curious what they were going to do with this character, if they were going to dive into her comics age. Mm-hmm. Or if they were just going to make her, like, 30-something, whatever. Mm-hmm. And for this version of Black Widow, I think it works really well that they grounded her more and made it about like a group of people who were undercover but became a family. Like, even though she played it off as, you know, no, we weren't a family. Like, it clearly, if you're in a formative year of your life as a child where you're treating somebody as if they're your sister, you're treating somebody as if they're your parents, like it's going to probably mean something even if you try to push it away. So, and that plays off of the stuff from Endgame where she talks about how the Avengers are her family. She was always in search of that again, and that was never fully explored, and this allowed that to get explored way more than I could have even hoped for. So
honestly, I think they kind of took the unaging part a little bit and maybe more applied it to Rachel Weisz's character, who said she's been through the Red Room like 4 times and she basically looks the same like 30 years later. I feel like that was kind of a nod to like how they used to do things.
And the legacy costume was hers too. So yeah, it's almost like she is the OG comic version and Natasha is a continuation of that.
Without being like, P.S. she's 80, like, or whatever, how old she is, like.
Yeah.
And plus they use that. Plus they use that joke all the time with like the Winter Soldier, about him being like an old man.
Yeah. But yeah, I just the character work in this movie is phenomenal. Like David Harbour, obviously great for comedic effect.
Now we know what Hopper's been up to in Russia.
But like that comedic effect still has heart to it because there is that moment where he and Yelena are in that back room together and he just, when he can't reach her, starts singing that Don McLean song. And like that hits. That like, as cheesy as it is, it hits.
He's the awkward dad that like doesn't know what to do with his daughter who's upset.
Yeah. Like, he's just like, this is how I can show that it means something to me, is that I remember this thing. I remember this thing that you care about.
You know what someone else pointed out on Twitter too, is that he had their names tattooed on him.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like, you know, as they were a fake family. It obviously...
And it was a prison tattoo. He got it after they weren't in his life anymore.
Yep.
So, yeah. But yeah, like that whole opening sequence is brutal. Like that is one of the most exciting like starts to any of the MCU movies, just because it's such a like borderline early Fast and the Furious, like high octane action sequence. Mm-hmm. And it just starts with that like quiet neighborhood and just like erupts, leading into like a pretty awesome needle drop with opening credits that don't ever happen in the MCU. Mm-hmm. And like a dramatic version of Smells Like Teen Spirit. Mm-hmm. Like it was a very wild, like it was very 90s brought into the modern day. Mm-hmm. And it's worked so well.
What was I gonna say? I mean, we're missing one of, like, I would say the breakout performance, as much as I loved,
Florence Pugh.
Yep, Florence Pugh. Oh my God, she was a riot.
That's honestly probably my favorite part of the whole movie.
But even like little things when she's in the plane and she's explaining to Alexei about what happens in the Red Room and how they gave her a hysterectomy. But like...
That wasn't originally in the script.
But like talking about fallopian tubes and things, like this is how women fucking talk. This is how we talk.
Well, that's what's great. That's what's great is it wasn't originally in the script. It was literally just David Harbour's character making a joke about periods, and then whoever was like, I don't know if it was a writer or the actors who were like, we can't leave it at that. Like, it needs to be more than that. Because that would have been kind of effed up. Mm-hmm. And it would have made him not that redeemable. But yeah, it's that performance is a tremendous way to, like, pass the mantle on. Like, it's such an endearing first look at a character that we're clearly going to be spending a bunch of time with going forward first with the Hawkeye show. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm thrilled with that cast. Like, I was already excited for that casting, but after seeing it actually happen, absolutely thrilled with how it worked out.
Like, she can be both a badass and, like, clearly is baby.
Yeah.
Like, forever. Like, it doesn't matter what she does. She's always baby.
She is very extremely, like, young millennial Gen Z. Like, it's like, might as well be scrolling through, like, TikTok references while she's flying the helicopter. Like, yeah, man. It's just, this movie wound up far, like, I expected it to be a good action movie that, sits somewhere in the middle of the overall MCU, but it's actually, like, it's pretty high up for me. It's like neck and neck with Winter Soldier. So,
really?
Yeah. Because it's just, the character stuff works so well. Like, it as simple as the plot is of, like, this is Natasha needing to do one thing. Mm-hmm. It just ingratiates, like, not only her, who we've needed that, like, extra explorative kind of stuff. It just, like, it opened up a bigger world that has only been hinted at for 12 years now. Mm-hmm. And then, or 13, actually, if we're going to 2008. But then on top of that, like, the action sequences are great. Sure, some of them are over the top. Like, they probably shouldn't have been able to been pretty much okay after that car wreck into the subway station.
Either that or, like, falling from the sky.
Yeah, but
you know what the whole thing is, like, you talk about the character development, but it's like one key piece that was really expanded on, which was crossing out the red in her ledger, which was, like, one of the first, like, key character development things she talks about, why she joined the Avengers, why she made the turn. But this was really, like, her true redemption arc. Like, all the stuff that she did with the Avengers was great, but this was, like, honestly her true redemption, because she ended the program, like, indefinitely.
It made the sacrifice in Endgame mean more. Because, like, we, as people who know the character long before the movie started happening, it meant a lot. But, like, to see the effort put in that amount of time, it just gave that much more oomph to the sacrifice in Endgame.
Because we didn't know at the time, when we saw Endgame, we just saw everything that she had done with the Avengers, and we thought, like, okay, like, this is why she's making the sacrifice. But to know that she basically, like, stopped a trafficking operation, like a global assassin/trafficking operation of young women.
Yeah.
Because that's what, I mean, in the opening credits, that's what the shipping containers and everything, that's, like, straight up child trafficking.
Yeah. And so to dive into that a little bit more, I know a lot of people have complained about what they chose to do with Taskmaster. I thought it worked very well.
I thought that was a great... like, why are people complaining? I thought that was, like, an excellent twist.
It's faux purism.
Like, are there people out there that, like, oh my god, Taskmaster, my favorite,
we know why.
My favorite. I just couldn't wait to see them on the big screen. Yeah,
We know why.
I know why. Toxic masculinity, the patriarchy, like, literally everything this movie is against.
Yeah. So that's the thing with this character, is it's a character that's built upon adaptation. And some people are yelling and screaming that the character has been adapted. Like, that's what's so fucking crazy. But
like, you believe that you can have, like, an army of, like, super soldier women. That's fine. Like, an underground organization that has existed for decades, that has controlled the fate of the world. But you don't believe that, like, this one daughter could have, like, had some alterations here?
yeah. So that, to me, actually, because the big bad of this movie had actually been teased in the first Avengers movie. When Loki is talking to Widow, he talks about the daughter. He talks, like, he brings all this stuff up. And so to have all this come full circle and have that be the story, and to adapt Taskmaster into this story, I think it adapts well into this story and helped lift up how heartless and shitty this guy is. So in that purpose, it fits the story. Like, there's I had no question about it.
She might have become a widow herself when she was, like, older. Like, is he just gonna keep her?
Well, that's the
you
thing.
Know what I mean? Like,
well, no, but that's the thing, is she's joining the freed widows now. So she is actually picking up that mantle. But, like, because even the way that they end that confrontation, she says, like, is it over? Is he gone? And Natasha says, yes, he's gone. He's gone. He's actually gone. And like, it, all of that actually hits, like, extremely well for me. Like, with this, it's funny, like, I don't think it's the best movie or the best MCU entry, but I have, like, no complaints about it.
Yeah, I don't have...
At the same time.
I really don't have any either. Sorry, by the way, I was just tapping Olive because she's doing licky-loos on her paws, and I imagine that it's on this track.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
It's fine.
Not really gonna work. But no, I don't... I'm trying to think of something. I thought it was funny. I thought the action was good. I thought... It surprised me how funny it was. In the same way that when I saw Edge of Tomorrow, I was like, holy shit, this is like a comedy. They did a nice job of keeping Natasha as, like, the straight man, though, because that... We know she's not really funny. Like, sometimes she's sarcastic.
Well, that's the thing, is she played everything as sarcastic. Like, but it was sarcastic responses, not sarcastic leads. And that's why, like, it works for her character so well.
Yeah, like, I just thought, like, that balance... You know what it is? It's balanced, right? Like, the story was interesting enough, but not too convoluted, where we had to have, like, you know, multiple films or a lot of backstory or anything like that. Like, it was funny, but not like too over the top, considering the subject matter that we were dealing with was kind of serious. Like, there was lots of great action sequences, but not anything that was like so crazy that it belongs in a Fast and Furious movie, like, entirely. So I just thought,
that's why I said early Fast and Furious.
but that's what I mean. Like, everything was like well balanced.
Yeah. I am extremely happy with how this movie came out, because I had my doubts. Mm-hmm. There's the whole idea that, you know, we know what happens to her, so maybe there's no stakes, and they made the stakes emotional instead of plot, which I think helps. It was a character arc stake instead of a MacGuffin stake, which was there, but, you know, kind of was secondary, which worked.
Well, that and like anytime they keep pushing a film, you get a little bit like, okay, like, what's like, is it ever gonna come out? Like, what's going on?
Well, I mean,
like, is it good?
I never really had the is it good, because it was supposed to come out literally like 2 weeks after the pandemic started. So it never had that stigma of delay, you know, like a lot of movies can get. So I never really had that worry.
But that's for us. I mean, just like in general, the like, I think oh my God, is this going to be good, was like kind of an overall feeling with people going into this movie. There's a lot of hesitancy and like, let me just see.
I think a lot of that too was just the do we need this people? Mm-hmm. Just because like we've seen her whole arc, but we haven't seen the mini arcs within that. We haven't seen the character progression within that. So, you know, I get that, I guess, but like there's always something to explore that can be meaningful.
And then to tie it into Hawkeye too. Like, now it's not just...
Well, that's the other thing, is much like Loki, this was supposed to come out before all the shows. So keep in mind, this would have been the first time that we see Julia Louis-Dreyfus in the MCU. It wouldn't have been in Falcon and Winter Soldier. That would have been her recurring role.
My mom keeps going, so wait, what is Elaine gonna do? Like, what is Elaine's role in this?
Yeah. That'll happen. What is Veep gonna do? But yeah, I'm really like, I'm thrilled with how well-rounded everything is coming out of Infinity War and Endgame, where it is like absolutely bonkers stuff in one side of it, and then still we get like the more so down-to-earth character stories that, you know, are happening that we've seen so far.
But I think we're going to need that moving forward if we're going into the multiverse, if we're going into Secret Wars, if we're going into this very, as you say, convoluted, like, heavy storytelling, lots of different moving parts. Something needs to ground it, or it's just chaos. We're all gonna look like freaking Charlie from It's Always Sunny with the board and the tacks and the strings and...
Well, it's been every one of these Disney Plus shows so far. But, like, that's the thing, is, like, with the Kang stuff, Kang has been confirmed to be the villain in the next Ant-Man and Wasp movie. And that's even more exciting with the fact that, like, I didn't realize this, but there is a shot of a little tiny city in the background when he shrinks down in the last movie. And that could be Kang's sort of reigning area. That could be what I want it to actually be, which is tied to the Fantastic Four. But because I really adored the idea of a story where the Fantastic Four actually were chasing after Doctor Doom in the quantum realm in the 60s, and like this is how they get brought to modern day.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
Because in the comics, that would, like, not the brought to modern day thing, but, like, Doctor Doom started to take control of a city in the quantum realm, and they had to go in and stop him. And so, like, use that as a jumping off point where we get to see some of the retro stuff and then bring it out to the modern day from there. But yeah, there's like Ant-Man has kind of that balance of both. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll be able to kind of bridge the gap between the two with that one.
So let's run down. So yeah. We should run down the calendar real quick. So I think we get Shang-Chi is next. Followed
Shang-Chi is next, and then
the
Eternals.
And then Spider-Man, No Way Home. And then
Spider-Man is after that. Yeah. But we also have the shows, which we don't have dates for yet, but we have Miss Marvel. Mm-hmm. We have Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. We also have The Marvels, which is the Captain Marvel 2, but it's also Miss Marvel and Photon. Mm-hmm. So,
and What If is coming too.
Yes, which we do not know yet if that's going to be literally tied in or if it's going to be like the comics What If, where it's just like what if. So yeah, there's a lot coming. And it's gonna like start coming kind of crazily fast because now it's not just the shows, it's gonna be the shows and the movies. And we didn't even mention like Wakanda Forever is Black Panther 2. I want to say we're looking at dates going up through 2024.
I only remember things up to 2023, but maybe towards the end.
Well, no, I mean like there's stuff without dates.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because we don't even have all the team up movies, which we know are going to happen. And like, I
think they said there's no Avengers movie in this phase.
Ooh. So
not until phase 5 do we get another like team up big movie.
When they have to.
But we will have another team movie with Fantastic Four.
Well, I mean, when are we going to put all the multiverses back together? Someone's going to have to do it.
Well, yeah, but that's what I was saying earlier with I think that's where we get Secret War as like the big movie in 10 years. So long road ahead.
Yep.
For this stuff. So yeah. Yeah, I think that'll probably cover it.
That was our Super Marvel episode, our Marvel Mega episode.
Yeah, and if if personal life world and temperature world stuff allows, so that the battery on my camera doesn't overheat, we will be back soon with another episode, as opposed to having to cram it all together. But until then, we'll see you then.
Bye.